the path we're on right now, we can't continue.
What an episode that was. I have a feeling this one will be talked about for a long time to come. Clare and Dale, I hope you're happy. We're going to dig into it with Lauren Zima next. But hey, just one note before we get into it. I messed up my audio. It's going to be a little rough for the first 10 minutes, but then it picks up, I swear. So just bear with me. Thanks for listening. Let's batch. This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All right, it's official. I think I've discovered the ultimate coupling of all time. Like any good relationship, they really balance each other out. One is super sweet, and the other, well, they can be a little nutty sometimes. It is, of course, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolate. So perfect, some would call it true love. Find Reese's now at a store near you. This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. Welcome to Bachelor Party. I'm Juliet Litman. It is Thursday, November 5th. I don't know about you, but I've been stressed all week. So I'm happy to have some distraction. And that distraction is the Bachelorette and the engagement of Clare Crawley and Dale Moss. To dig into all of it, I am joined by my colleague in Bachelor Nation, friend in life, Lauren Zima. Lauren, hello.
Oh, Juliet. First of all, I'm so happy to be speaking with you. Second of all, on these Bachelorette-specific circumstances, thank you for having me.
Oh my God, thanks for being here. So, monumental episode. We just have to say it. Weirdest, craziest, just bizarre, strange episode that people I think will talk about for a long time. It will be a reference point of like this show going forward. For you, what was your biggest oh my God moment in watching this episode?
Oh my gosh, what a question. Unprecedented in so many ways. Just when I thought this season couldn't have any more franchise first, it just continued. The moment I will probably remember is Clare saying the process is over.
The process is over. She's like, I have found Dale. For me, it was Chris Harrison asking her, did you have any contact before? And her swearing on her dad's life that she did not, because we know how important her dad is to her. And it's crazy to me that like kind of the fulcrum of this season rested on like, did you have contact beforehand? And that she brought her father into that in that moment. Like just like that, like encapsulated this season to me for a T, just like showed what Clare cares about, who she is, and just the wild circumstances around Clare's Bachelorette run, which I just want to get a few data points out there. To my knowledge, Clare was the Bachelorette for 12 days. That means that her and Dale have, at point of engagement, knew each other for 12 days. Do you have any information that conflicts that?
No, what I knew was less than 2 weeks. Yeah. So you had a more specific number than me.
All that data this week. Number two, she was down to 16 guys, which means there's 15 left for Tayshia. And we'll come back to Tayshia. But I've just got a lot of questions about how the rest of the season's going to play out. Like just so many questions. Really weird.
Well, let me ask you first. Do you believe, Clare, that she and Dale did not speak before this?
I do believe Clare.
I do too. And honestly, I believed her before the swearing on my dad's grave moment, because she's completely stuck to that story. In every interview I've seen, she has adamantly said. So unless it's like at that point, you just have to believe someone unless they're just repeatedly lying over and over and over again, which I mean, isn't totally unprecedented. But no, I believe her on that. And that's kind of like, I'm past that at this point. And this episode really made me take an even bigger turn on not caring about that anymore, because I felt like we got so much insight into why it is very believable for Clare as a person to be totally on board with this love at first sight story.
Yeah. She just wants it so bad. She just
when we learned about her parents and her parents having, I'm sure we'll get into it all, but her parents saying that her dad meeting her mom once and then hitchhiking to go get her. And she clearly puts so much into the love story her parents had. And yes, you're right. She also, I think, wanted this so badly, being in her late 30s, having never been married. We heard her when she said, "Get that ring on my finger."
Yeah. She was like, she just wanted everything to be so storybook. It's kind of, I have to say, I'm just going to be upfront. I completely turned on Claire in this episode. I was like, she says the things that everyone thinks. I was like, just like giving her a lot of the benefit of the doubt, but I could not stand her in this episode. And I was just like, good riddance. I'm ready to move on.
Oh, wow. I did not feel that way. I was very softened to Claire this episode. Because
yeah, why? I'm curious. I'll tell you my problems, but what endeared her to you?
Well, I've never felt like I couldn't stand Claire. I have felt like when I keep hearing Claire say, "When you know, you know," here's my issue with that. I totally get that in your late 30s, you know what kind of guy you want. You dated around, you know what kind of guy. Absolutely. What I don't get is how she knows that Dale is what she wants when she's only known Dale for less than 2 weeks. Yeah. So I still have my concerns about that. But when I heard her talk about her parents' love story and also knowing how long she's been waiting, knowing she was in quarantine and dealing with her mom being ill, I just think she was so mentally and emotionally in a place of just wanting like
contact, connection.
Yeah, she'd looked Dale up on social media. The in-person chemistry was there. And so she's going. She's on the speeding train and she wants to be on that speeding train. She is so beyond tired of waiting at this point. And it did blow my mind to hear her say she was in love with Dale. It blew my mind to hear him say he was in love with her. Because I've heard people say before, "Oh, I felt like I met my husband that night." I've heard people like feel like maybe that magic was there. But to say in love after less than 2 weeks, that blew my mind. But also to hear, the reason I say softened, to hear Claire and Dale both talk about losing their parents, talk about what kind of mental and emotional place it put both of them in. At the end of the day, I want both of these people to be happy. And if this works out, great, great. I still have concerns about it. I think as you would for anybody you care about on some level. But if it works out, great.
Yeah. The stuff with their parents was very sweet. Like them connecting over both of their parents having like a hitchhiking story.
Wildly specific and niche, wasn't it?
Do you believe that? One of my coworkers, Andrew, posited that perhaps he just like stole Claire's hitchhiking anecdote. Just was like, yeah, my parents too.
No, that would be dark. That would be dark.
So dark. I don't know if it's true. Let's put that aside. Him speaking about his mother and how hard it was for him and his family to move forward. And obviously we know all about Claire and what her father means to her. That was very sweet. I agree. And when people find each other, it is genuinely happy. Like JoJo and Jordan, those two were like clearly meant to find each other. And it's like, that's really beautiful. It's lovely. That said, here's what I couldn't get down with.
Tell me.
Claire's speaking voice when she talks to Dale. Listen, a lot of people have a different tone when they talk to their significant other. When they're trying to like, I don't know, sound cute, sound flirty, sound sexy, whatever it is. Claire's like baby voice that she uses for Dale to like sound cute, sexy, flirty drives me bonkers. It makes me uncomfortable. And I'm like, I physically cringe. I cannot handle it. And I just feel like the way that she was approaching this sort of like final run was so ridiculous. Ben Higgins and I talked about this back in July or August, whenever it came out, that she was being replaced. And I had said, like, I'm totally cool with her finding someone and leaving the show. Like, that's great. I do believe, like, sometimes if you know, you know. Why did there have to be an engagement? And her to be like, I don't know, Chris FaceTiming Neil Lane was an all-time lol moment, like LOL moment. But like, why was there have to be an engagement? And her just being like so insistent on like not wanting to follow the whole process, which makes sense, but then insisting on like wrapping it up in this tidy way, which behooves her and the show. We'll come back to that. Just fucking drove me crazy. But here's my real problem with this relationship. Dale does not seem excited. I know he said he was in love. I know he was like, I felt love when that first night. I looked at that man's face. I looked into his eyes. He is not excited about this engagement. He might be now, but he was not on the day of.
Well, look, I think Claire wanted her moment. You know, let's not forget that. Is this her 5th franchise show at this point?
Yes, she did Juan Pablo, paradise, Winter Games, and now she's the Bachelorette.
Yes. So, she said when he put the ring on her finger, get it on there. Like, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
So I think, and she'd been waiting again in quarantine for months alone. I think I'm guessing Claire wanted her moment. And, we all want that moment. We're all raised to want that moment. And she's 39. And I get that. Especially given all she's been through, she's in her family life. I just want this happiness, And so I get that if all these signs were pointing to her in her mind, this is it, then I get why she wanted it. I still have my concerns of like, you might have all the connection in the world with someone. And I say this as somebody who I got married pretty quickly. I'm divorced, so I'm putting my own personal experience into it. But I think that even if you feel like things are aligning and all the boxes are checked and like, this is it, you still have to go through experiences with someone and communicate and see how you react to what life throws at you.
Yeah.
Not life inside this special bubble where you don't have real crap happening to you. And to me, that was what Dale's hesitancy was all about. And I respected him for that.
Yeah, of course. I definitely agree with that.
I'm in love, but now we can really use this process to find out more about each other. And then you hear him saying, like, Claire's like, when they get engaged, she says something like, it's happening. And he goes, and now we got to put in the work. And I was like, yes, Dale. Yes. Yes, Dale, put in that work. Yes.
Work. Yeah. That's a good point. He just seems like maybe more realistic and I think for a lot of these couples, the ones that work out is like a jumping off point. It's like you get engaged, but then like you really have the relationship. Again, JoJo and Jordan like re-engaged. So I think they like surprised me. That's why they're like a reference point for me in this conversation. But
totally,
I just saw Dale's face and I was like, this is not a man who's excited about getting married right now.
I mean, his words, he kept saying, I was surprised when Chris went and sat down with him. Because you heard from Claire about their night together with Chris, and then Chris went and spoke to Dale individually. And I was surprised when Dale said, no, I'm in love with her. I feel the same. And I'm like, wow, okay.
I know.
Great.
But he said it was such a flat affect. I'm just like, maybe he's afraid of love. He doesn't know how to emote. Like maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I thought it was really funny. There was just like so many other moments in this episode where I was just like,
you know what?
Holy shit.
I changed my mind about the moment I will always remember. And I need your take on this moment because I still haven't totally decided how I feel about it. They're engaged. They're standing there. They're holding the champagne. And Claire says something like, I knew it. And Dale says, I accepted it. And she says like, I just could feel it. And he goes again, and I accepted it. And I was like, what does that mean? If I'm not paying attention to his tone, if I'm only paying attention to his word choice, I accepted it. Saying I accepted it twice is an interesting word choice.
It's like pretty upsetting. It's like, I don't know. I don't even know what it means. It's like, I don't know.
I don't either. And I got
it's like, I love you. I accept. Like, I say that all the time, like as a joke. I'm always like, I accept when someone says like, offers me something. I can't even think of an example.
Well, you'd be like,
it's just weird.
This new insane thing is happening in 2020. Okay, I accept it. It's 20.
Yeah.
Like, I accept.
Or like I say it like as a joke, like seriously all the time when someone's like, do you want to go to dinner? Or like, Juliet, I got you a coffee. I'm like, oh, okay, I accept. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a positive. I accept.
Yeah,
yes.
So it's a positive I accept. But like still, it's like a joke and it's supposed to be like kind of silly. And I don't know, man. He's weird. He's super weird. I also just think that like everything we know about him, there seems like there's something inside there that we didn't get on TV. Maybe she had access to it when the cameras weren't around.
Did we?
No, not at all. But just the way that he took the roast and then the way that she was like proclaiming her feelings for him, he just seems like so like rigid. It feels like he tenses up in those moments. And maybe that's just because he's not comfortable on camera. I do think when they showed the like happy couple scenes of them in their Malibu house, they seemed really happy and he seemed like actually a different person.
They were making that salad. Yes.
Yes, they were. Sure were.
Like this is such, of all the moments, we don't see them like laying by the pool or like dancing to music. They're making a salad. I'm like, okay, great. Let's post the recipe at bachelorette.com. I don't know.
Couples that work out together as like the focal point of the relationship. Yes. I'll never understand. Never.
I will say, I appreciated after that roast that Dale had that conversation with Easy, where Easy said, look, dude, you knew we had, and he said, yeah, I accepted. It's cool. I sort of am wondering how much Dale was still, I think there's an adjustment period when you get on these shows. And in those first couple of weeks, Ben Higgins has talked about this, how he had moments on the show where he was like laying alone in the dark because he just couldn't process being there. So I don't judge people too hard in those first few weeks because
that's what I do every day of the COVID era, by the way.
Oh God.
Every day.
I can't get over, and maybe my sympathy and empathy is also, again, coming from something personal, but I lost my dad at about the same time Claire did. I was 22. I think Claire was 23. When Dale was talking about his family being broken, I totally understood that. And I totally understand Claire wanting a sense of safety, once you don't have the safety of your parents anymore.
Yeah.
I completely relate to those things. But I will say that just speaking from my own experience, you have to be careful about not filling that void or trying to fill that void totally with a relationship.
Yeah.
You have to feel safe and secure on your own and still go and find somebody else who's complete on their own too. And that's with anything you've been through in life. Again, I really hope Clare and Dale have found happiness together and that this is just some insane, wonderful, magical love story.
It's funny to hear you say that, speaking from a place of sympathy and empathy, because I feel very similarly to Claire, about Claire, but on related to different topics. I do agree with you. I thought that her talking about her parents was really moving and him as well, and really understood that. I just think more generally over the four weeks we've had Claire as the Bachelorette, I have just felt a lot of sympathy for her. As I think her age became a focal point because she feels some way about it. I mean, obviously the show also leaned into it, but I don't think necessarily would have been wow, we have the oldest Bachelorette ever at 39. If Claire wasn't also talking about it and thinking about it. Cause there's only so much you can manufacture. With Colton, he didn't actually play into the Virgin stuff. That was all in the pre-season marketing. And then once the show actually started, it really quickly transitioned to the guy who jumped the fence and playing that up. Right. Because he didn't give that on camera.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I think that a lot of the age stuff is because of Claire. And I totally relate to feeling the pressure and embarrassment to be I got to get married, got to find this person. I'm X years old. I think a lot of women can relate to that. And that's one of the reasons I've been saying she says the things that a lot of women think, but I just found that the way that she carried on with this to be so embarrassing. I was just girl, be excited about the relationship. You don't need Neil Lane. You don't need to get engaged after 12 days. That's fucking crazy. It's great that you found the guy. That's enough. I was so embarrassed for her. And then that turned into anger and me not liking her. So, that's the whole gamut of emotion.
I feel we felt a little differently. I was more frustrated with Claire the first 3 weeks. And then this week I was yeah, go chase that love story. And now you've done the opposite. So you know what?
Seriously.
We are a divided nation and we are a divided Bachelor nation.
Seriously. Let's go through some of the beats of the episode because it was also just a great, a really well produced ending. And I will say, you could see the seams. There was a lot of times where I was weird editing. But that's okay. I want to talk through some of the stuff that stuck out to me because obviously they had to tie this up and move on. So let's just kind of go through some of the major beats. A lot of Chris Harrison. Hope you don't feel awkward talking about him, but whatever.
My gosh. I was so excited to ask you, do you still do the total runtime? What is his total runtime up to?
I haven't, but it's really high for this episode. I will get back to you. I have to say, one of the things I really liked from the beginning of this episode was I knew they were kind of figuring things out on the fly because they were relying on Chris so much. I was Chris is stepping in because they need someone to to thread the needle here and bring it on home. So I was good thing he didn't have to go bring his son to college yet. They needed him for this. So, but the first moment where I was okay, they're really working hard to make something happen here.
Remember when that was the big story? It's so much has happened.
It's also just God forbid someone allow real life and being a parent interfere with their job. It's ridiculous.
It was wild. I mean, we don't have to, but it's that was a moment where I was just thinking to myself, this man is probably the best father I've ever seen of anyone anywhere. And all he's trying to do is have this once in a lifetime moment with his kid and a year when a filming schedule changed when he wouldn't normally be filming. He's also taking, I don't know if people understand, months away from his kids to go film the show. And like, that's his job. And he knows that. And he's trying to do the best he can for all the people who work on the show. But it's not easy to be away from your kid for, he will have not seen his kids for 4 months this year. So
that sucks.
You know,
really
so he was doing the best he could, and he was doing the best he could in this episode, running around, sweating. Luckily, the man doesn't sweat.
Oh my God. No one's been sweating. And I'm like, I know it's 115 degrees. Show me the sweat, people.
I would be dripping.
I would be a bitch. I would be like, I'm so fucking hot. Get me some air conditioning.
The hair on the back of my neck would be matted.
Oh my God. I would be so uncomfortable and just miserable. Oh my God. I can't imagine. Okay. But here's what I loved. He comes in and he talks to her. He's like, he said, we need to sit down, you know? She's journaling, which is reminiscent of other finales, but Claire seems like a journaler to me. So I was
journaling throughout. Yeah. Solid journaler, consistent journaling. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I just really support. I love journaling. Pro tip, Paper Source has wonderful monogrammed like notepads and stuff.
Oh, beautiful.
And,
just in time for Christmas.
Yeah. And Moleskine, also, you can get a great monogram notebook there as well. I'm all about the monogram paper goods. My mom makes fun of me.
I love that.
I actually have a stream of monogram Moleskine notebooks. And as soon as I finish one, I move on to the next one. And I can't function without them. Every day I make a to-do list. Little tidbit.
I love learning this about you.
Thank you.
Really
okay. Anyway, Chris Harrison comes into her room. He immediately moves furniture to set up the shot. And I just fucking loved it. He moved, I think, like a chair. And I was like, oh, Claire really wasn't expecting this because I didn't set the shot beforehand and he had to do it. So I would just like to imagine that they had some kind of like emergency war room where they're like, let's block it all out. And they like just do all of these like directions of like, okay, Chris, you go into the room, move the chair over, make sure you do this. I just thought that was like masterful and really good producing by everyone involved. I really liked it. That was awesome.
I applaud you. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. The shot was not ready to go. But you know, the man, luckily he worked in local news. He's done production for so long. He's a producer. And yeah, I'm calling him the hardest working man in fall television this year. It's wild. It is wild.
You're supportive. It's very sweet. And then he says to her, what do we do from here? And I just like loved that this was like seemingly an open conversation. I'm going to posit that it was not an open conversation. And there was sort of like an exit strategy here that Claire had to get on board with. But I thought that conversation set a very good tone for the episode because it kind of reminded me of like the final act of a rom-com where it's like all the things are like all the pieces are there. You just got to put them into place and like get the train on the track and push it and let it go. And it kind of like reminded me of like the energy of like a movie where you're trying to like accomplish some goal or something like that.
Yes. I give them so much credit for just the production that's been done this season. Like when you think about getting all these people into a bubble, the testing, changing the filming schedules, all the stuff has gone up against it. The two, like, it's just wild what they managed to do. You know, I know that Claire was at one point like liking the tweets about being forced out. I asked Chris about that in an interview we did. He said she was absolutely in control of the situation. And I felt like he said, where's your head at? And I don't think I'm exact quoting her, but she said something like, this process is over. I just want to be with Dale.
Yeah.
So every sense that I got from it was, look, these producers know Claire and they've known her for 5 seasons now. And I think everything she was saying was giving everybody a sense of where she was at. And then she said where she was at.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. She also seemed like she knew that she couldn't keep doing things the way they were going. She also just seemed like she wanted to. So it seemed like everyone was aware of that.
At the end of the day, I know we talk so much about what's produced, what's not. One thing that Chris and they will all say every time I've interviewed anybody is you can't like, this show relies on reality. It's produced reality, but it's a reality show. And you can't, especially when it comes to love and attraction and all those things, like they want the real connections to be there. And I think this was an unprecedented situation of holy crap, the connection is there.
I know. It seems like everyone saw it from night one. It's crazy. And that brings me to them talking about social media. What did you think about her talking about not if they had connected, but like how she had been basically looking everyone up. I don't want to call it stalking because I just feel like in this day and age, like of course you look everyone up on social. What did you think about in that moment?
I mean, it took me, and a lot of stuff that Clare has said or done has taken me back to this sort of like teenage place of,
I know.
You've got the poster. I mean, for me, it was Jonathan Taylor Thomas or a Devon Sawa,
Oh my God, Devon Sawa. I dragged my friends to see Slackers because he was in that great movie with Jason Segel and Jason Schwartzman and Jamie King. But moreover, Love Now and Then. I mean, how many times did I pause it to see if he was naked with my friends when we were 12? So many.
Now and Then was probably my sexual awakening, both Devon Sawa and Brendan Fraser. Although it might have been Indiana Jones for me, that's so
my main teenage, like 13-year-old crush was Nick Carter, the Backstreet Boys, but Devon Sawa was really up there.
They had the same haircut. You had a type, yes.
Exactly. And then I moved on to Dean from Gilmore Girls, who had a very similar haircut as well.
Juliet, do we need to bring this haircut back for you? That's when you're going to find your man is when this haircut is.
Glad to say I too have moved on. Carry on.
Well, yeah, I was taken back to this teenage place of when you are fantasizing about someone who you don't know, but in your mind, they're the perfect guy.
Yeah.
And so I do think we had what seems to have been this perfect storm here of Clare, again, was seeing that Dale on social media was checking these boxes of what she wanted. A guy who cares about his family. Oh, he had, lost a parent too. They related on all of these things. And then in person, when that spark was there, it was like, I can liken it to like if I'd met Devon Sawa and he seemed into me, I'd be like, let's get married now, Devon Sawa.
Totally.
I will be your Christina Ricci to Casper. Like I'm here.
Great movie. Great movie.
What were you thinking?
In both of those. Well, I went to look for the post on Dale's profile. Couldn't find it.
You did the digging, the data.
Leads me to believe it was on his story. Not a grid post, which leads me to believe she was checking on him a lot because did she just like choose Mother's Day as the one day she was going to look into these dudes? So I think that she was like following him again, a fairly immature, but also like understandable behavior.
I do not know the specifics of Clare's quarantine situation other than that she, I think, lives alone with her dogs and that like, of course she had to go take care of her mom. I don't know if she like saw family at all during this time, but what I would imagine if I'm the Bachelorette and I know that the show is resting on me not getting COVID,
I'm staying the fuck home. Yeah.
Right. She probably wasn't seeing many people. She's like, I don't want to get COVID and ruin the show and ruin my chances. And for me, that would be an unselfish thing to do. And so I think Clare probably was spending a lot of alone time and on her phone a lot, as we all were. So
yeah, totally. I just thought it was like indicative of her mindset coming into it. And also that she was checking him a lot. Cause I was like, oh, it had to have been a story. So she was like checking in on him frequently, maybe even following him. Who's to say? I bet she wasn't allowed to follow any of that guys, but burner account, who knows?
Totally speaks to her mindset. And I think she's owned that, but yeah, I felt like in that conversation, I don't know. I thought that conversation, I'm forgetting what specific point we were on now, but as I was watching that conversation between her and Chris, I really did feel like this is like the most honest we've seen Clare. This is the most raw and real. And I was on the
oh my God. The woman says, I've begged guys to love me. It's like, that's heartbreaking. Yeah. And yet I've turned on her. Nonetheless, I acknowledge that was very, very upsetting. I mean, I feel for her. She's just like desperate to be loved back. And she feels like she's feeling it with Dale. I just don't know how that's going to go. I mean, it might be like so long in this COVID scenario that they don't ever have to like really deal with the real world. Like COVID might be the best thing to ever happen to Clare, because I feel like a lot of these couples, they like then get thrust into the spotlight and they get like all these opportunities. Do they move to LA? Do they move somewhere else? Like, what do they do? But like, they're not going to have to deal with a lot of that crap because what's there to do?
The way that so many relationships have happened this year has changed.
Totally. Like they're just either accelerated to being really intense or accelerated to ending, like one or the other.
100%. I mean, Chris Harrison and I were not going to live together. And then we ended up living together.
Yeah.
So here we are. Luckily it worked out.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. This episode is brought to you by Visible. Maybe you've already let your New Year's resolution slip. We all have, but you can still make a 2 year's resolution with Visible. Right now, you can get a one-line wireless plan from Visible for just $20 per month for 24 months. 24 months is basically 4 Bachelor seasons. That could be 4 engagements, 4 broken engagements, so many other couples we didn't see coming. It's really an eternity in Bachelor Nation. And that's unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon with no annual contracts. Switch now at Visible.com and use the code Visible24. Don't miss out. Offer ends January 31st. New members only. Promotional rate with service on the Visible plan. For additional terms and network management practices, see Visible.com. This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All right, it's official. I think I've discovered the ultimate coupling of all time. Like any good relationship, they really balance each other out. One is super sweet, and the other, well, they can be a little nutty sometimes. It is, of course, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolate. So perfect, some would call it true love. Find Reese's now at a store near you. This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. All right. So then I just like that whole scene was great. And then it was so specific. Also, another thing that indicated to me she was not really prepared for this big scene to happen when Chris came in. Her eyelashes looked like she had done her own makeup that day. She wasn't wearing the usual professionally applied eyelash extensions. And
you're totally right.
It really caught my eye. We had a lot of eyelash variation with Claire this episode. There was another one where she was wearing, she'd obviously cried so much that she'd taken them off. And I was just like, oh, it does make a big difference. I think that if you don't wear fake lashes, you aren't aware of what a big difference it makes. But then when you get to see all in one episode how it makes a big difference, I was like, oh, okay. Fascinating.
You hit the nail on the head. I was like wondering if she'd been crying or something, but I think you're right. I think it was just a casual moment.
She had done her own makeup. She'd put her own hair up and she looked cute. Claire, she looked great this whole season.
That's like Claire's signature look is like a cute, messy bun in that tank top. I feel like I've seen her wear that tank top in like 10 different colors. By the way, I wish I had like Claire's fitness, her whole like,
oh my God, insane.
Stunning.
I've got some more mean things to say about her though.
Okay, go. Okay.
She was kind of starting to remind me of like Mean Girls mom a little bit, like sort of trying to be like really hip suburban lady. And she sort of was reminding me of Molly Shannon, this SNL actress a little bit.
At which part during this conversation?
Just as the episode went on and on.
Oh.
When she went to tell the guys that she was done with them, and I just felt like she was just like morphed into some weird character, like breaking up with a group of guys en masse who you don't even know and never really interested in getting to know. It was just like so strange.
What did you think of the apology moment?
Okay, this is another problem going forward for Tayshia. In addition to turning on Claire, I've turned on all of these guys. They all suck.
Wow. Powerful. Okay.
What did you think?
I understood why they wanted an apology. I mean, just like Claire quarantined, they all quarantined. They were probably all careful about not seeing people to be able to go on the show. I think they had spent, from what we've seen, a lot of time waiting, dates getting canceled.
It seemed like they genuinely had nothing to do for many days in a row. And that applies to all of them, not because no one was going on dates. So they probably were bored out of their minds and like annoyed that they had, to your point, sacrificed a lot for this to just like not happen.
I totally understand where Claire's coming from with like she didn't do anything like, you know, overly cruel or wrong to any of them. Like, I don't know, she's just being on the show, you know? I'm not saying she was perfect in every moment, but I just thought it would have been easier to just give them an apology in that moment. That's what I didn't understand. When she said, well, what would I apologize for? I'm like, look, you're literally saying I've picked a guy and I'm piecing out and it's none of you. That's going to sting for them on some level.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you, to me, with the person, or in this case, people who are in the more vulnerable point, if you're getting what you want, just try to make them feel a little better. I would have just said, I am so sorry that this did not go the way you guys thought it was going to go. And I truly wish all of you the best from here. And I'm glad that I got to meet you. Like, just say that. when she said, what am I apologizing for? And then when she said, I'll apologize if I wasted your time. I'll apologize if I hurt your feelings, but I won't apologize for love. I was like, well, Claire, I think you kind of did waste their time and hurt their feelings a little bit. That's sort of what they're saying.
Yeah, it's true. I just thought the whole thing was weird. I mean, I guess they also, again, they couldn't just be like, hey guys, this is over, and like not have a moment on screen. Like they needed to come together. And there was a lot of Frankenbites from the guys in this episode. Like when Claire was apologizing to them in that whole scene, you heard Kenny but didn't see him. There was just a lot of like showing the room while Kenny was allegedly talking. And that was like,
that moment was a little weird. I agree. I've had a harder time dissecting when Frankenbites seem to be happening this season. I think because so much happens in every episode. It's like, I am just really trying to keep mentally
it's an assault.
In this episode, I'm like, I think we got a fantasy suite, a season finale, and a season premiere in this episode. I think that's what happened. I'm exhausted. It's all great.
Let's talk about the fantasy suite for a second. I jumped over that.
Yeah, because we got to call it the fantasy suite. That's what it was. They had their first one-on-one date followed by their fantasy suite.
I think they had already had sex. That's been one of my takes.
Really?
Yes, that's just one of the. I don't know how you could be so sure and just be like, I'm going for it after 12 days without it. Especially, again, like, I don't know.
Oh, well, I got the sense that they slept together in this. But when they were making out at that other part, she was like, I wanted to go further and we didn't a couple weeks ago, whenever it was. I don't know.
Well, that might not be the full picture. I think they had sex before this, but that's just my personal take.
Wow. No, Juliet, this is why I love it, because you've always got both eyes open and your head on a swivel. And
Thank you. But the whole
what makes you think that?
The amount of time that they spent, amount of unaccounted for time they spent together on that group date.
Unaccounted for time. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How about I know what I kept thinking.
You think they're just making out on the bed for 45 minutes? She's almost 40. No.
Interesting. I just kept thinking about that cameraman. Like, how long you standing there? Are you talking? Do you talk to them? Are you just silent? How heavy are you breathing? Are you behind the lamp? Are you next to it? You need water at some point. You need to set the camera down. This camera's
so
very
uncomfortable.
Heavy.
What kind of job? It's just like, so like, when do you back away? Like what? Like what's the threshold? Like, is it when a shirt comes off? Is it when pants come off? Like, what is it?
There's a finesse to that, and I raise my glass to that person.
So funny. Anyway, I also, when they woke up the next morning, he like woke up. She was wearing like cute pajamas. And he woke up wearing shorts that were like not like pajama shorts or like sleeping pants. And I was just like, okay, so wake up is definitely very staged, because also the cameras were way up in their face. It was very different than a usual fantasy suite wake up. And it felt uncomfortable for me as a viewer. With the fantasy suites, it's like very, at this point, formulaic, and it's like, you know what you're gonna get. Like they read the card, they go in, you hear some sound, but the door's closed, and then you come back the next morning, they're like cute in bed, they're wearing their pajamas or whatever. This felt a lot more like the morning after a date, like we're like, you just go home together, which it was. But I was just like, oh my God, are we supposed to be seeing this? And I kind of like felt bad for them. I was like, God, like, why do they have to do this? You're on a reality show. I loved it. I loved that Claire said we should take a lie detector test. I love that she said, what's happening next? And he said, I don't know. I think she said at one point the question that every probably, I don't even want to just say every woman, I think everybody has said in a relationship, what are you thinking? Okay. I'm so glad you bring that up.
I was captivated.
Being asked that in bed is the absolute worst. It's like, maybe you could ask at a separate time, perhaps if we're like silent in the car together, or like after a fight and you're trying to like move on. It's just like post-coital in the morning. Absolutely not. I don't want to talk about my thoughts. So it's like, it's their first fucking day, first real date together.
There's a weight to it, right? When you ask, what are you thinking? When you're waking up in bed naked with someone, there's a weight to that. That means, what is our future? That's what, what are you thinking? That's what it actually means. And
was that good? Like, oh my God.
And again, I get Dale's like I think one of the guys called Dale a politician at some point. Yeah. And not necessarily in a bad way, but I sensed that in that moment, because he really handled his response well. He said something like, I don't know. And then she asked, well, what do we do from here? And he just handled it well. And I think maybe maybe we have a hard time reading his tone, but maybe he has this calming energy that is a good counterpart to Claire. That's how it's read to me thus far. Like he's grounding and he's like backtracks things a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, I was captivated.
I was just like, oh my God, don't do that, Claire. It's just so condensed. I mean, it's the first, I guess you particularly want to ask that when you don't know the person that well. And it's like it's their first real date together. It's the morning after.
But
and she's like, what are you thinking?
Well, it's like condensed. You're right. That's the speed they're going at, right? I mean, and we were talking before about like Claire's choice and all this. I mean, I just feel like when you're looking at Claire, the way she looks at Dale, she is so in it. And I think she said on their dinner date, I've been doing everything the way I want. And then they wake up together and, she says, I'm looking at my notes now because I'm trying to remember what she said.
Well, you just reminded me of something while you look for it.
Tell me. Yeah.
The dinner date, we skipped over. Brie and Chris back. Hello, Brie and Chris from Listen to Your Heart.
Guys. How are you?
Chris was wearing a scarf. This is Chris from Listen to Your Heart. Once again, it was so hot. I don't know why he was wearing a scarf. It was completely outrageous. It wasn't even a summer weight scarf. It was like just a scarf. It made me furious. I was so angry on his behalf.
There was a point, I can't remember which moment, because there were so many moments of just the other guys just being in a group, like in whatever living room they were in. And one guy with curly hair was wearing a turtleneck. And I was like, sir, why did you even pack this for California in July?
I know.
What are we doing here today? Is everyone all right?
No, they've got brain damage due to the heat. They can't think. They've got heat stroke.
I don't think they can. But yeah,
so crazy.
They're at the dinner and they're waking up together. And Dale said, maybe this was when Dale said at one point, there's still a lot of time left in this process to really nurture this love that we have and see where it goes. I think he said that in an ITM. Turns out not.
He was not ready for the full acceleration, the blast off of this Claire rocket. And that's what was so funny when, after they have their overnight, Chris comes back for another sit down. Papa Chris is back. Papa Harrison, as they say. And he says to Claire, the next step, pregnant pause, proposal. And Claire just lights up. And that's when he then FaceTimes Neil Lane, which was so funny. That's a parody of The Bachelor, FaceTiming Neil Lane because of COVID. Oh my God, I was dying.
Neil Lane did not have great framing on his FaceTime. I will say that. All my love to Neil Lane. I was like,
Chris should have directed that.
The shot. Yeah. Chris was not there to help him set up the shot. It was not the best. It was very close. Well, that's another thing about this. I really felt there were two major takeaways I had from this episode. One, I did feel like the show gave Clare and Dale this beautiful love story episode. And it was actually really nice. I was just sort of enjoying it. Like you said, kind of like a romantic comedy. I was like, I'm leaning in. I got my questions, but I'm also enjoying it. Yes. Love. Great. And then my other big takeaway was this. I think there's been this question about, did Clare and Dale talk? And then also like Claire, by liking those tweets, raised this question of like being forced. And when Chris says to her, what's next? I think he says, do you want a proposal? And she says, that's the dumbest question you've ever asked me. Yes. And she says, I'm in love with Dale and Dale's in love with me. And yes. And I just felt like Claire is all in on this.
Oh, I completely agree. Like, it seemed like she was more excited about the like proposal and the ring and all of the like pomp and circumstance than anything else. That's why I was like turning on her. I'm just like, that's not what it's about. I understand this is a reality show. You went on The Bachelorette. That's what's supposed to all come down to. But just sort of like bum me out. It's like, Claire, you're going off script. Embrace it. Do it your way. Have your own ending. Doesn't have to be the Neil Lane. I mean, I guess you want the ring for free, so I get that. But like,
that's a big ring.
Huge. When she's flashing it all over town at Target and wherever she is in Sacramento.
Okay, so those pictures, if anybody didn't see, there were these paparazzi photos this week of Claire at Target in Sacramento doing a Target run with an iced tea and a ring. And I was like, wow, this is like, we're getting the ring debut at Target. This on a Target. It was very relatable.
Very relatable. There's a long history of aspiring celebrities calling the paparazzi on themselves. Even A-listers, the Kardashians are known to do it once or twice. And I don't think we could rule it out here because we both work in the celebrity news industry, or I'm adjacent to it. You're firmly at the center of it.
Enthralled. Yes.
Sacramento is not the mecca of paparazzi, particularly in COVID.
It's not the One Oak. It's not the Ivy. It's not the nice guy. It's
not even Calabasas.
No, it's not Craig's. It's not Catch LA. It's not even a suburb of Los Angeles. I don't know. I don't know why someone with what looked to be a long lens camera based on the Zoom quality was at the Target in Sacramento. I have no idea why. But regardless, Claire was wearing that signature tank top again with her hair in the messy bun. I was just like, she's looking great. And again, I hope she's happy. Yes. It was, man, the proposal. I'm like, did we talk about that? What did we even talk about at this point?
It's all over the place. There was just so much to break down. We haven't talked about the proposal. I don't even really remember it. And I will say I watched the episode 2.5 times. Great way to distract from the world. I don't even remember it, but he didn't seem that excited and he didn't like put the ring on. It just was like it was a low point in a weird season. I think there was one thing I wanted to note. There was a real fake out from these 4 episodes, which happened with Colton season. We never got the scene of the men threatening to just like walk away. Like they were talking about being angry, but I don't think they ever said the like famed line of like, so let's go or whatever.
Oh, really? It's hard for me. There have been so many teasers. I can't even.
I don't think we ever got that. Listeners, let me know if I'm wrong, but I think that was a fake out. I don't think that ever really happened. There was no revolt. There's no mutiny. Obviously, they're upset. And I think like we could talk more about Blake and Kenny in a second, but these guys are just sort of like, I don't know them. We don't know them. And so
no, I barely, usually I don't know all their names the first couple weeks, but this season more than ever, I'm like, I know Dale. I have a hard time remembering Blake. Easy.
Well, after this week, Blake is just like, he bought the book, which was sweet to learn.
He bought the book. Oh,
that was sweet. That was sweet. But like, how's Tayshia going to go and like give Blake a shot? Maybe it'll work out, but like, he was like so fixated on getting screen time and so fixated on Claire that he just like, do we want to hear more from him? I don't.
It's hard for me because I feel like it's like we have only talked to these guys through the lens of Claire and
of not being Dale.
Yeah, of not being Dale, of being undale. So I don't really feel like I really know any of them that well yet. Like Easy kind of makes funny comments. And so I remember that about him. Like I like his narration at different moments. Kenny, this episode, I felt like was a voice of reason in many moments. He was really narrating the what's going on here of it all. But everything they're saying is through the lens of Claire and Dale. So I just feel like we don't even know them yet. And I don't know their names yet. Yeah.
Kenny, I'm also really not into. Apparently, if you Google Kenny, it's very easy to find pictures of his nude modeling days or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, see, we don't even know. I don't even know. None of this other stuff hasn't even come out about them.
I know. So we've got a lot to learn, but let's talk about Tayshia for a second. So she comes in at the very end, stunning dress and looking stunning.
I was awestruck. I think it's the biggest reaction I've ever had to a Bachelorette on a night one before. I thought she looked absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah. There was one shot where she had her flyaways because of the wind. And then I think they did a reshoot because she just had it very smoothed over in a very quick period of time. But,
do you ever think about solving crimes?
Me?
Yes. I think you should be analyzing footage and solving crimes.
As I was watching this, I was so intensely trying to like not think about the election that I was like so dialed in, and I was like, I'm going to catch everything. I'm going to take notes and I'm going to talk about it, Lauren. So I was you were really
like,
focused.
I need my brain to not think about the future of our country, but instead to think about flyaway taming. Yes.
100%. Well, also flyaways are a concern of mine, much like, you see yourself in The Bachelorette. And Claire, I saw myself in some of her anxieties, and Tayshia, who I don't think suffers anxiety. Tayshia seems like as far away from a neurotic Jew as possible. I did feel for her with the flyaways, the wind and the heat.
Flyaways are a major, I have a natural wave to my hair. Flyaways are a major concern. I took to Instagram to ask people for their tips on flyaways months ago.
What'd you get?
I got some people say toothbrush, but this is better. It's a very small hairbrush that's like larger than a toothbrush, but has different bristles. And then you do a little hairspray and brush your flyaways with that. And I'm going to buy you one and send it to you because it's very life-changing.
Wonderful. Thank you. I look forward to it. I've gotten really into mousse for my natural looks these days, but Biologique or whatever, it just smells so good. Anyway, Tayshia's wearing a most beautiful dress. I would say my favorite night one dress for Bachelorette ever. Her and like, I can't think of anyone else even in the conversation, but it also was like a beautiful deep green. She looked killer. But how do you feel about her having to walk into a room of dudes and not getting like the grand presentation?
I feel like how else would they have done it? That's what I wanted to say before. There are a lot of moments this episode where I thought, A, I applaud production on everything they managed to do, and B, we might have our criticisms, but how else would they have done it? That was it. That's my thing. Also with Clare and Dale and the proposal. I don't know what else they would have done because Clare wanted it. She was into it. This is the Bachelorette. What else are we going to do? With Tayshia, I am like, what are they going to do? Go put the guys in a limo and have them walk out to her again? What would you have done?
Well, two parts. For Dale and Clare, had they not gotten engaged, you would have immediately needed to go to some kind of after the final rose sit down conversation with them in real time. That's kind of what happened with Colton and Cassie. That worked out well for me. I think for other times where there haven't been an engagement, that's kind of what they do. But I'm guessing, and you don't need to weigh in, but I am guessing that was impossible because of the filming of Matt's season. My guess is there was not a lot of work to be done catching up with these people after the fact because the same production crew is in Pennsylvania filming for good old Matt James 919. So like if we were going to do it after the final rose, like first of all, for Clare and Dale only, like maybe like a Jake and Vienna style sit down, they probably would have had to film that in a way that just like was logistically impossible. That's just one of my guesses.
Why wouldn't you just fly them to Pennsylvania?
I guess they would have, and that would be a good preview for Matt. That's a good point. It's a good point. Maybe I don't know. I don't know because then maybe there'd be leaks. I mean, I have no idea, but whatever. That was one of my thoughts. That's how they could have done it. Is looking at after the final rose kind of thing, and just being like, we're good here. Like Clare being like, and Dale having some kind of like we pick each other but no ring.
I suppose the conclusion I lean into again is I do think Clare wanted that moment, and I think
you're right. If you watch, she was genuinely happy. She seems thrilled.
Totally. She was like, I'm happy this is the one. All signs point to yes, from hitchhiking to Instagram information I gleaned to our in-person connection. We are a go.
She seems like the least coerced Bachelorette of all time. Like the least amount of coercion, in my opinion.
Like, I'm trying to think of a Clare pun right now.
She's got the clarity.
Yes.
So there's that. And then for Tayshia, I don't know what the answer is there, but like, I wonder how it's going to go for the guys not knowing it's her. Like they just know that someone new is coming in. That's another big twist is like usually the guys know who the Bachelorette is going to be. So like they get out of the limo with like some kind of expectation or some kind of line or something. At least I know who it is, even if they don't know anything about that person. And this time they haven't had the opportunity to like prep.
Well, I actually think the fascinating thing is, yes, they might know who it is, but with Clare, just like Clare had time to look all of them up, they all had all this time to be digging into Clare. So I do
Except
wonder
for Brandon, who declined to do so.
Brandon couldn't even muster a Google. Brandon's like,
couldn't even muster a lie. Like, what do you like about me? I love that you love your dog. Like, it's just like, it's there for the taking, man.
Well, I mean, he could have said, he'd at that point, at least interact with her in a group setting. He could have said, I love the way you talk to all of us and make us feel hurt. Like Brandon's
an absolute legend. Absolutely.
Yeah. So these guys, I do wonder how deep some of their feelings will be for Clare because they also had all this time to be looking her up. But then again, I think they felt so frustrated with the Clare Dale of it all. Like maybe they just are like, whatever, we were done. I will also say somebody like Tayshia, even though they didn't know it was her, when she walks in,
they're going to be so happy.
Or girl crushing on her. Yeah, they're like going to be totally blown away by just the aesthetic of Tayshia. But B, if they know anything about Bachelor Nation, like I think Tayshia's a pretty beloved person. You know, she was, people liked her on Paradise, people liked her on Colton season. So I don't think any alarm bells go off. You know, it's not like a known villain walked in as the Bachelorette.
Yeah, that's true. And also she's like, I think as you say, there's a lot of goodwill towards her and she's like knows being good vibe and good hang and whatnot. But I don't know. It just sort of stinks. And then there's this rumor that more guys are coming in. So like, how does that work? And I hope they are. I feel like she should get more than 16, even though there's only.
Oh, I don't know how you don't bring some new guys in. I really don't. I don't know how you don't. I mean, on Listen to Your Heart over the summer, they brought new people in halfway through. If you're bringing in new people on Listen to Your Heart, how do you not bring in new people? Come on. And Tayshia deserves it. She deserves it. She doesn't deserve, because if I am the fan base. If I would think if Tayshia only has these same guys, that just doesn't feel fair to her. That feels like you just got what was left and you aren't really getting the experience you deserve. And Claire definitely got the experience she wanted, so Tayshia should too.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. It's just like, it was sort of like a weird transition, but I don't know. It was just like, it felt
a little lackluster. It felt like she just walked in. I was like, was the camera ready? There's not a lot of great light on that entry when she came in. Like, I don't know. It was, but maybe they were just exhausted. I mean, they had just done a proposal. They had moved some roses around. They had to repurpose the candles. It's 120 degrees. These poor people.
I'm just trying to think of like what would have been better, but I don't really know. I think maybe like having the guys like outside waiting for her so she gets like make a grand entrance, like almost like the way that Kate Middleton got out of the car in front of Westminster Abbey, you know, like
Juliet, I think you're totally right. I love you. That's what would have been better. The guys should have been waiting outside. It should have been reverse limo entrance. The guys are all waiting on the pavement that isn't watered down because I think it was so hot the water kept evaporating. They're all waiting outside. And Tayshia pulls up in the limo. You just fixed it. You're 100% right. Yes.
Let's just make it, thank you. Let's just make it a little bit grander for her and like new Bachelorette. Woo! Like, where are the fireworks? You know, like that's what I was looking for. That was what was missing. I think this episode, so many crazy things happened. It was like overwhelming. You're just like, wait, what? And now they're overnight date. Wait, what? Proposal. Wait, what? Near lane. Wait, what? Happy couple. Like all this shit. And then they're like, oh, okay, now Tayshia's here. I'm just like wanted a little bit more. Just wanted some more fireworks, and like I wanted like a real like Disney-fied experience of like the Bachelorette coming in or something like that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm like, will we get that next week? I hope
Maybe.
So. I hope we get all the pomp and circumstance. Because again, I think Tayshia's great and she deserves it. And I don't know how tired they were. I keep watching that because I think because you know this, like because I'm in production, like when I'm watching election coverage or anything, I'm like, why is that light there? Oh, her mic's kind of falling off her.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, they've been on TV for so long.
Yes, and I'm just watching this and I'm just thinking, how did they pull all this off? And what I want to know the turnaround times when they went from proposal to night one. Like, was anyone sleeping? It's wild. And we thank them because here we are watching it and getting an escape, and it's amazing.
Big time. Thank you so much, The Bachelorette. Moreover, Lauren, thank you. Great to see you, buddy. Happy to have this chat. If you enjoyed it, check out Lauren on Entertainment Tonight every day of the week and on YouTube for Roses and Rosé. She does a recap, which I believe will be up on Friday this week, day after the episode. Is that correct, Lauren?
Yes, always up the day after. So, you know, when we're normally on Tuesdays, it's up on Wednesdays. Roses and Rosé on Entertainment Tonight's YouTube channel. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. I will talk to you soon. And I'll be back next week. Regular scheduling. Tuesday, we got, I think Rob Mills. Hopefully he can still do it. That's what I'm thinking. And then on Thursday, we got Justine and Natasha from Two Black Girls, One Rose. So lots to look forward to. Hope you listen and be kind to yourself. Buy some personalized stationery and have a great weekend.